Hey there, welcome back. I'm doing a review today of Elsewhere by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a YA fiction book. I got the audio unabridged from my local library. When this book starts out, it's from the point of view of the main protagonist's dog. The dog's name is Lucy, and she's a pug. And when I started hearing this, I was like, okay, what kind of book did I just download or rent? This just sounds very strange. She's going on about how her owner's gone, and yeah, I thought that was odd. And then it switches perspectives. I thought, okay, that was just the prologue. And now you're in the narrator's mind, and he's telling the story of this young girl, 15-year-old girl named Liz Hall, and she has woken up on a boat called the SS Nile. Or actually, she thinks she's still dreaming. She's like in her pajamas. There's another girl there she's never met, and she doesn't know why she's on a boat. Where is her family? Like I said, thinks she's dreaming until finally, slowly, she comes to the realization that this is not a dream. She has in fact died, and she's on her way to this place called Elsewhere. And when she reaches there, this is Elsewhere is sort of like a version of heaven, at least in the mind of Gabrielle Zevin, a little slightly different heaven. When she reaches Elsewhere, she's met by her maternal grandmother, Betty. And this is a woman she's never known in life, because Betty passed away when she was 50 of breast cancer before Liz was born. Yet the woman standing in front of her is actually a 30-year-old. And, you know, how could she be that young? Turns out people on Elsewhere age backwards from the point of death until they're once again a baby, and then they're returned back to Earth where they are reborn. Lizzie hears this, and she is, like I say, Lizzie, she's also referred to as Lizzie sometimes in the book, but when she hears this, she is not thrilled. This is a 15-year-old that was looking forward to becoming 16, getting her driver's license, going to prom, graduating high school, you know, eventually becoming an adult, moving out, getting married, who knows. She doesn't want to repeat the past 15 years, you know, so a lot of the early part of this book she spends griping about her situation and you know, this is ridiculous. She doesn't want to age backwards. She wants to go back. She's not coming to terms and accepting her situation. She goes to this place called the Observation Decks, and you picture like looking out on a harbor type thing, those big binoculars where you put the money in there. She gets the currency from her grandmother. They're called eternums, short for eternity, eternums. And she uses the eternums to go to the observation decks and watch life kind of moving on without her. She can see her family, her friends. She becomes obsessed with their day-to-day life, and hers is just passing her by, such as it is. So a lot of the book is her sneaking off and pretending she's doing something else, but she's actually spending a lot of time at these observation decks. Kind of a slow-paced book, like I said, a lot of griping, a lot of, you know, just viewing, seeing what's going on. But she eventually comes to her senses and realizing her life, such as it is passing her by, and she must move on. So she accepts a job with, I think it's called the Department of Domestic Animals, something like that. She's basically going to be working with dogs. And she comes to find out that she speaks canine. Yes, in Elsewhere, some people can communicate with dogs. So we hear the voice of the dog speaking. So another kind of weird twist. It came from the prologue where you're hearing this dog's thoughts. Now she's physically communicating with dogs in this world. Kind of interesting, kind of weird. I mean, sure, I'd love to be able to know what the heck my dog's, you know, talking about, or, you know, thinking. But it's kind of bizarre in here. Through the course of events in the story, she makes friends, and her life sort of starts to move on. She meets a boy named Owen. This is a boy who died when he was in his 30s, and who's now about 17, so just a few years older, at least physically, than Liz, and a relationship starts to develop between them. I found the whole backwards aging thing, and especially with regards to relationships, kind of, it just didn't work for me. I mean, particularly in situations like this. Here's a romantic relationship developing. She's 15. He's technically in his 30s. I mean, it was just a little creepy. I mean, sure, maybe he has aged backwards, but mentally he's still like a 30-year-old in a 17-year-old's body. I found that a little odd. Like I said, there's a lot of weird elements that didn't quite work for me. I mean, some of the side characters I liked perhaps maybe more than Liz, who I thought spent a lot of time whining a bit. and there's one scene, and I won't go into too much detail in her, but the author throws in mermaids, and that just kind of like, that was like, what? That just came out of nowhere for me. I thought that was just an odd element to toss in, and it was kind of unnecessary. It felt like towards the end of the book that I kept wondering, okay, is this is the last disc? When's she going to end it? I mean, it goes through a certain progression that you expect it to end already, and it almost seemed like to me, it seemed like the author didn't know how to end it. Yeah, it just seemed to drag, particularly then. I think it could have been a bit shorter at that point. I don't know. It says it's recommended ages 12 to 17. There's some situations in there maybe that if they had eliminated it, could have been better for a younger audience. Maybe they could understand that aging thing better. But it didn't sit well with me. Like I said, there are some elements I like. You know, you can give it a read, but it's not something I would highly recommend. It was just quirky enough and different enough that I was curious to see what the author was going to do with that, and in terms of dealing with death in the afterlife. So, out of a whole, I just gave it 2 stars. Yeah, that's it. I'll swear by Gabrielle Zevin, and that's my review. Thanks.